Welcome to Raising the Bar. I am Ashley Vargas, and I help lifters feel more confident adding weight to their barbell. Hello, lifters, and welcome to episode number 9 of Raising the Bar. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about something that I am extremely passionate about, and given my profession, it's going to seem pretty obvious, but I am going to approach this topic from a slightly different angle. And my conversation today is going to be about the value of quality coaching. As a coach, I take so much pride in what I do, and my success is a direct result of my client's success. And in today's very fitness conscious world, programs for any type of training, any type of diet, any type of lifestyle are readily available. You can get them through various fitness apps. You can even, Google weight loss program, and you're probably going to find a ton of them. Personally, I think this is amazing that these types of reference materials, guides, and tools for living a healthy lifestyle, moving your body, and eating well are in such high demand and so readily available. I think it's fantastic. I believe that there are very good quality programs out there designed by some of the best minds in the industry, and if executed correctly, will provide you with the desired result. As a matter of fact, I often purchase programs from different coaches that I really like and I follow, and I study them. That way I can continue to educate myself and kind of understand the theory behind the programming and the why behind the programming. That way I can, add that to my coaching toolbox to the benefit of my clients. However, I feel like using these tools and these tools alone have created a different type of problem for the average consumer. A well-written training program is really only as good as the person who's executing it. And what do I mean by that? If someone is following a training program and does not understand how to gauge their intensity, they're not going to get the most out of that program. If someone is following a program and doesn't have the mind muscle awareness to know if they are doing the movement correctly, they're not going to get the most out of that program. If someone doesn't understand proper rest periods, they're not going to get the most out of that program. I think you understand what I'm saying. The difference between following a well-written program and working out with a coach is substantial. Okay. Now, as a coach, my main objective is not to write the best program out there. Do I write kick-ass programs? 100%. And I have several people that can attest to that. However, like I said, you can find a well-written program anywhere online. My job as a coach is to identify your weak areas, identify mobility issues, identify technical issues in your movements, and be able to coach you through the mind muscle connection, be able to break that down in your lifts, and effectively communicate those opportunities to you. That way, you know what you need to do in that next lift in order to execute it properly. Okay. These are some key pieces of the training process that you just cannot get through an app because you don't have that feedback. So let's dive into some of these areas a little bit deeper. So I talked about how to properly gauge your intensity. I am a big fan of using the RPE method, or the rate of perceived exertion, when training clients, especially if they're newer. And I've noticed that newer lifters do not gauge their intensity very well. There are some slight variations as far as like the programming goes, but in general, 99% of the time, an uncoached lifter will underestimate their intensity level. And when you're underestimating your intensity level and not pushing yourself the way that the program is designed, then of course you're putting yourself at risk for hitting plateaus and reducing your results over time. As I start to coach people and get an idea of what they perceive intensity to be, I can then better provide education and list weight recommendations so they can get a true gauge of what proper intensity is. And a good coach will be able to do that for a client. A workout app or a program alone is not able to do that. Muscle mind connection is often one of the hardest things for people to figure out, especially when they're working on their own. If you do not have the mental awareness of what a contracted or a tense muscle feels like, there's absolutely no way you will be able to create the tension when it's required in a particular movement. A coach knows exactly what a tense muscle feels like and what it looks like. If you are in a squat, for example, if you're not bracing your core properly, it is very obvious to a trained eye. Okay. It is then the coach's responsibility to identify that, be able to articulate it in an effective way, and be able to communicate that to a client. And then also continuously be able to provide feedback and reminder cues from every single training session moving forward until that movement pattern is memorized by the lifter. A good coach will be able to do this and identify these movement patterns. An app or a workout plan cannot do that. A good coach is going to be able to determine the best setup and the best position for any lifter for any given lift. Setup for lifts is not a one size fits all situation. When it comes to powerlifting, the goal of powerlifting is to be able to lift the most weight as efficiently as possible. So, with that being said, setup is going to differ and it's going to be very dependent on the lifter's build, their leverage points, and their strengths in order to find a setup that's going to be as efficient as possible. If your setup is not efficient, you will be leaving significant weight off of your barbell. So, to give you an example, with a bench press, if someone has longer limbs, most likely a wider grip on the barbell is going to be a better option because it's going to significantly shorten their range of motion. For a lifter who is extremely tricep dominant, a closer grip may be a better option because you're able to capitalize on the strongest part of their arm. With a deadlift, if you have a lifter who is very posterior chain dominant, a conventional setup may be the better option because you're leveraging their strengths. If someone is more interior dominant or a little bit taller, a sumo deadlift position might be a better option because you can incorporate the quads a little bit more in the pull, and you're also shortening the range of motion by widening the stance. So, a good coach should be able to identify those leverage points and identify the strong areas of the lifter in order to coach and teach the more efficient way to complete your lifts. A coach can do this, and you guessed it, an app or a training program can't do that. So, to reiterate, the purpose of this conversation is not in any way to devalue a pre written training program or training apps. I think for lifters who already have the knowledge on how to properly engage that mind muscle connection on proper setup and proper technique, I think it's a great tool and a great resource. But the purpose of this conversation is to shine light on the immense value a good coach can bring to any given training program. If you do not address these roadblocks in your training, in my opinion, you're really wasting your money buying these programs and not getting the full benefit out of it. Hiring a coach doesn't always have to be this long-term commitment that people think it is. There are clients that I have worked with for years, and they probably won't leave me for several more years. But I also have clients that I work with for maybe 12 or 16 weeks for a meet prep, and that's it. So the value that you gain is not dependent on the time that you work with a coach, but it's very dependent on the quality of coaching you receive during any given time. So, as always, I'm going to leave you with 3 major takeaways. Today's episode was very short, sweet, and to the point, but I feel like there was a lot of value in this. And before I get to the major takeaways here, the things that I talk about, they're just like there's really good written training programs, there's very bad written training programs. Coaches run the gamut as well. Okay. So when you are looking for a coach, I highly recommend that you talk to a couple. Um, get a really good sense of what the process is to work with them and make sure that you're actually getting really good coaching and feedback and not just getting a very expensive training program. Okay. Like I've said, and I will continue to say this, there is such a difference between quality coaching and writing a training program. They are not the same thing. So make sure that you are definitely doing your due diligence. But as always, I'm going to leave you with 3 takeaways. First one, the best program in the world will not get you the best results if you don't know how to properly execute it. Number 2, a coach should be able to identify areas of opportunity and clearly articulate them in a way that a client can understand and be able to implement in their very next training session. A coach should always add value to any workout program. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to talking with you again next Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found value in this, please make sure that you subscribe and share on all of your social media platforms. And if you are a lifter who has been following a pre-written workout program and you're loving it, but you're just not sure if you are doing these movements correctly, I am now offering lift reviews where I will identify mobility limitations, form issues, and provide you with corrective drills for any lift of your choice to ensure that you're lifting as efficiently and safely as possible and you feel more confident than ever adding weight to that barbell. I have provided the link to schedule your lift review in the notes of this podcast. Make sure to click on it and pick a time that works best for you. And I look forward to talking with you next Wednesday.